Your thoughts on this massive development? It has been breaking news all over the world this entire evening. The most renowned Putin critic and opponent, who was serving a 19-year jail term and had in the middle even sort of disappeared from his earlier prison, and then it was found that he'd been taken to some remote corner of northern Siberia. This is the same man who had even survived a poisoning attack back in 2020 with a Soviet era nerve agent. He was targeted. And now comes the news that at the age of 47, he has died in a Russian jail. What are your first thoughts on this? Because we've seen the kind of reactions that have come in from the West, from Zelensky. Some have been very direct, others have insinuated that they all believe that the Kremlin is behind this.
Obviously, where your report has clarified, and if we see the history of Mr. Navalny's political career, he was a opponent of President Putin, and he was designated as a anti-national. But there is a context to this, and the context is that both after 91 Soviet Union's breakup, both Boris Yeltsin as president and Vladimir Putin as successor president tried very hard to integrate with the West. In fact, President Putin even offered that he would join NATO. But these Western nations have rebuffed President Putin. They have openly asked for regime change in Russia, and they have seriously threatened Russia's security after demolishing Soviet Union in 16 countries. Whatever is left of Russia, they instigated Ukraine to fight Russians, to ill-treat Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, and they threatened to bring NATO up to the border of Russia. So in my view, Russia has been pushed into a corner by
But
these
Ambassador
Western
Tayal,
powers.
sir, if I could just come in there for a moment, with due respect, sir, whatever your opinion may be on NATO and whether it has done the right thing or the wrong thing, that's a larger debate which I'm sure we can discuss on some other occasion. But, here we are talking about how one Putin critic after another drops dead. You've seen, and this has happened not just in Russia, but in multiple parts of the world, where suddenly somebody is reported dead after having quote unquote fallen out of a window in a hotel or their apartment. This man, Alexei Navalny, who we are talking about today, and let's not really talk about the West or NATO here. Yes, they have given their reactions, but my point is, NATO politics aside, what about the fact that this man had a target painted on his back, and today very few people are willing to believe that he has died a natural death? What does that say about the regime that Putin has run for the last 25 years? There are so many questions being asked about what kind of an election Russia is going to hold next month. There is supposedly a presidential election. I don't know if anybody can dare even contest against Vladimir Putin. We all know that he's coming back to power for at least another 6 years.
See, President Putin himself comes from a security background. He was a KGB officer all through his life. And under his leadership, Russia has become a security obsessed state. So it is going back to its Stalinist ways, which were the ways of the Soviet Communist Party. And there is regression in Russia. There is no doubt about it. It is regressing from democratic principles. Obviously, the next elections are not going to be free and fair, and whoever could be a credible candidate, he will not dare to stand. Somebody else also who was a critic, he has been barred from standing as elections. So elections are a foregone conclusion, and they are not going to be free and fair. But the point I am making, and this is up to a limit that you can go as far as possible. Navalny was killed, somebody else was killed somewhere else. Now, so this is all symptoms, manifestations of a security obsessed state which is regressing from democratic principles, and that is very obvious. And but one has to find solutions. You see, the way world is moving, there is more and more distrust, there is more and more power, might is right. Whether Russia attacks Ukraine or Israel goes in and almost genocide it commits in Gaza. So the world is on a very different track. People are not talking to each other. There is no dialogue between America and Russia. So in all that, of course, it is very tragic that such a brave fighter for democracy has passed away under such obviously tragic circumstances, and Russian state is obviously culpable.
Yes.
They, when he was in poor health, he was sent to Arctic, and earlier one used to hear of gulags and gulag that in the Stalinist times, but unfortunately, it seems that those days are coming back. So this will be a very big blot on Russia's prestige, Russia's status in the world, and well, it is for them to see what can one. India is a very friendly country to Russia, where we have historic friendship. We wish people of Russia well, and we hope that the
Right.
leadership of Russia, which is very strong, sees that the rule of law prevails
Right.
in constitutional
Well,
all the
fact of the
bodies.
matter is there really does seem to be no rule of law in Russia at the moment.